Pokemon Legends ZA. What are you most looking forward to, personally?
I'm really interested to see if the new active battle system lives up to it and it maintains the interest and it has enough new mechanics to keep it fresh over the course of its duration.
Jordan and Brian, you've both demoed the new release.
There's a lot of strategy. It's a much deeper combat system than we've ever seen before. The other thing I really liked about this one that surprised me was when you're seeing, a franchise that's been around for so long, they need to take some risks. And I think doing an open world Pokemon game is kind of the biggest ask that we've had, since the game came out. You wanted to just run around a world and catch Pokemon.
None of us have played the Switch 1 version, which if you played Scarlet and Violet on Switch 1, it was not in good shape whatsoever. They fixed all of those problems when the Switch 2 version was released, but I worry about how this is going to run.
Welcome back to another episode of Gamer Galaxy powered by Xsola. This is your launchpad for everything gamers care about. News, interviews, insider stories of people shaping the video game industry. And I am your host, Cher Hwang. The wait is almost over. Pokemon Legends ZA is coming this week. Following the groundbreaking success of Pokemon Legends Arceus, ZA continues the Legend series and Game Freak's mission to experiment with the franchise. It's certainly something I've been looking forward to, and many others as well, I am very sure. This game is set entirely in Lumio City, where you'll be a part of major urban redevelopment projects. Mega Evolution is back with a new twist called Rogue Mega Evolution. The combat is a major shift as well, featuring real-time battles, which is so exciting. The reaction so far has been incredibly positive, I believe, and fans are thrilled about the return of Mega Evolution and the fresh new combat style, of course. With me today are three lovely journalists who cover the upcoming release, two of whom got to demo the game as well. I will introduce you to Jake Brigstock, chief reporter for Indie 100 and gaming correspondent for The Independent. He does in-depth reviews, previews, and analyses. Jake, also joining us from London. Jordan Moreau, he's the senior online news editor for Variety, joins us from New York City. Jordan does breaking news, film, and TV. Brian Shea is the executive editor of Game Informer and the host of All Things Nintendo podcast. Thank you all so much for joining me today on this wondrous week.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay, let's start kind of with your backgrounds, because I'm new to the game industry, but covering the news, but you guys have been around for a little bit. I'd love to go around and ask about kind of how long you've been covering the games industry, and also if you have a very special favorite Pokemon memory, maybe?
So I have been at Game Informer for just around 11 years, but prior to that, I was doing freelance for websites such as IGN, Kotaku, Official Xbox Magazine. I also co-founded and ran a site for 4 years prior to that. And so all in all, I've been covering video games for about 17 years now. And as far as like favorite Pokemon memories, I got a chance in 2019 to fly out to Tokyo and visit Game Freak for 2 days and write our Pokemon Sword and Shield cover story. So I got to get very familiar with Shigeru Omori, Junichi Masuda, and several other members of the Pokemon team. And it was just a terrific experience, especially as somebody who's a lifelong fan. Pokemon Red and Blue was my first RPG. I got it alongside a Game Boy Color for Christmas one year. So I have been a Pokemon fan pretty much since day one. And so that was an extremely cool experience for me.
Wow, I'm jealous already, you guys. All right. Jordan.
Yeah, I've been at Variety for 7 years. I do a lot of film and TV news, breaking news, and started recently getting into game coverage the past couple of years. I've been a gamer my whole life, a Pokemon fan my whole life. Favorite game, definitely Gen 3. Played a lot of Pokemon Emerald with my friends back in the day. I was the guy who would always have to buy the strategy guide and would lug that around to my friends' basements, and we'd play all night. And I'd be talking to everyone and finding the hidden items, flipping through the pages. I went to Tokyo in college and got to go to the Pokemon Cafe and had a lot of really good food while I was there, and that was a really dream come true. And of the past 2 years, I've been to the Pokemon World Championships. We, with some friends, met a lot of great journalists out there, a lot of Pokemon fans. So yeah, love being able to cover Pokemon as an adult.
Wow. All right, Jake.
Love it. Hi, everyone. I've not been around as long in the gaming sphere as these guys, but yeah, started out Indie 100s about 18 months ago, and then gaming started doing really well for us, so started doing that full time about a year ago now, actually. Wow, that's flown by. And yeah, covering all kind of like news, reaction, a lot of viral stuff. There's a lot of stuff that we focus on. Then any big releases I'll do for kind of like the main site, the Independent. Mostly any kind of like Switch 2 stuff, console tech releases as well, that kind of thing. And then in terms of favorite Pokemon memory, I remember my first one was Pokemon Crystal when getting a Game Boy Color, but of course played all of Gen 1 and all of them since then. And yeah, in terms of like favorite Pokemon memory, it's got to be that red battle, right? At the end of Crystal, at the end of Gen 2. Yeah, top of Mount Silver. That always stay with me. It's my favorite moment in the Pokemon series, I think.
Ugh, love it. You guys, I think we're all Pokemon fans here, and like we've all grown up with Pokemon, so I think it's just holds a little special place in all of our hearts, I think. For me, it was I remember playing Game Boy with my brother with the Pearl and Ruby versions. And so and also there was the one where you had the headset where you can talk to the Pikachu and it'll do stuff back in the day.
Hey, you
Um,
Pikachu.
I think, yeah. That was so fun. Anyway, so of course, we're talking all about the new release of Pokemon Legends ZA. I know, so Jordan and Brian, you've both demoed the new release, and Jake, you have not. So I want to start with Jake because I want to ask kind of how or what people are expecting, what you're excited about, since you haven't played yet.
Yeah, I think just coming off the back of Pokemon Legends Arceus, it was a game with a great concept. I think a lot of people loved it, and that it was a spin-off that really took the franchise in a different direction. It was a massive swing, completely. It's like the stealth approach to catching Pokemon and that kind of thing. And it was a really, like I say, it was a really good concept. But I think a lot of people felt it could have gone even further. And I think that's something that people are excited to see about with ZA, to be honest. Set in, of course, Lumio City. It's really redeveloped how the battle system looks. Again, not being hands-on, but from what I've seen, that's gone down really well because I understand the battle system in Arceus as well was quite simplified. I think it was quite similar to a lot of the mainline entries in a way that a lot of people weren't expecting, considering how different it was to catch Pokemon. So yeah, with that being refined in Legends AZ, and hopefully a rich variety of content and a more interesting world. Of course, quite a lot of people online saying Arceus, the world might have been a little bit more lively, and I think we've definitely got that this time with Legends AZ. So I think it's just seeing if it lives up to all the hype and the promise and building on the foundations that we saw with Arceus.
Yeah. For those people who don't know about Arceus, can you briefly describe that for me?
Yeah, sure. So instead of kind of like catch a Pokemon, as you would do kind of like in the wild, depleting health, you kind of stealthily go up to Pokemon, you see them actually in the world, and you just kind of catch them that way. Name of the game is, of course, try and fill up the Pokedex as much as you can, and that's the general gist of it, really.
Yeah, it was kind of revolutionizing. Jake, what are you most looking forward to? I guess you kind of covered this as well, but what are you most looking forward to personally in the new games?
Oh, good question. I'm really interested to see if the new active battle system lives up to it and it maintains the interest, and it has enough new mechanics to keep it fresh over the course of its duration. Of course, when there's a shiny new mechanic or anything's reintroduced, say, for the first few hours, you're like, yeah, great, this is so cool. But then sometimes it can fall into the trap of feeling a little bit stale or a little bit undeveloped. So yeah, that's what I'm interested to see. Like I say, from all the previews and everything I've seen, that's one thing that really stood out, was something we've not really seen in the Pokemon series before. So yeah, just how that's going to be fresh, and also post credits as well, because massive part of Pokemon games is how the interest is kept after the credits roll, of course. So yeah, just interested to see how that mechanic in particular really translates through the campaign and afterwards.
Love that. So then, with that being said, Jordan and Brian, you've actually played the demo. Were you able to experience? How much were you able to experience? Let's start with Jordan.
Yeah, the most recent demo was about an hour, and it gave us a good look at kind of the main gameplay loops, mechanics that we're going to be doing. So there was a catching section in the wild zones, and that was kind of running around Lumio City, throwing, Pokeballs, battling wild Pokemon of various different levels. There were some really tough battles that I encountered, and then, you're kind of steamrolling some bug types and, catching them pretty quickly. I really enjoyed it. I thought that was a lot of fun. And then the part that really I thought was the best, my favorite, was just the trainer battling in like these battle zone areas at night in Lumio City. And this really showcased the real time battling that we've never seen before in a Pokemon game. I really liked it. It's a whole new way to battle and play Pokemon. You're thinking on the fly of your type advantages, your status affecting moves, defense, offense, switching out Pokemon. The battles were really quick, and you have to really think on your toes. And if the opponent throws out a Pokemon, a rock type against, I guess if you have a water type against a rock type, you're doing good. But then they throw out a grass type, you got to switch, or you got to change up your strategy really quickly. Where before you could take all the time you wanted to between Pokemon and throw out a type advantage there. I thought that was my favorite part. And then we also got a mega, the rogue mega battle. So you fight like a giant victory bell. And that was a whole new thing also, like a big boss battle that we haven't seen before, where your Pokemon, we were given a team, we didn't choose our own Pokemon. And then you were collecting this kind of mega energy to power up your Pokemon, make them mega evolve, launch your attacks on this giant boss, and then also you're avoiding attacks yourself. So your trainer can faint, and you yourself can take damage. So you are dodging poison, fire, different energy attacks yourself with your trainer, while also launching attacks from your Pokemon. So it was something that I've never seen before, and I like this way better than Legends Arceus. I was not the biggest fan of Arceus myself. Some of the technical limitations were kind of took me out of the experience, but from what I've seen from ZA, it is way more streamlined, quick. The graphics are great. We were playing on the Switch too, so I'm really excited. I think this is a really big step up from Arceus.
Yeah, so I think we played the same demo because I went through that same progression of Wild Zone to Battle Zone. Then there was a rank up battle against, it was kind of like a mini boss battle, and then a battle against Mega Victory Bell. And I think the thing that I went into my demo worried about was I actually was a huge fan of Legends Arceus. I think that's my favorite Pokemon game of the last 15 years. So going into this, I was like, all right, well, like, they're toning down a lot of the things that I actually liked about Legends Arceus, which were like, that sense of freedom of exploring out into the open. Like Breath of the Wild's my favorite game of all time. And like this kind of approximated that in Legends Arceus of like going out into kind of like this quiet meditative search for different things in this big open area. And Pokemon Legends Arceus did not do as good of a job as Breath of the Wild, but it still captured similar vibes, I think. So and it also went back in time, whereas Legends ZA actually goes a little bit forward in time. And it also takes place entirely within one single city. So I was like, oh man, how are they going to capture that same magic as Legends Arceus did that like made me really fall in love with this spin-off series? And after I emerged from my gameplay session, which, as you'd pointed out, was about an hour long, I was blown away by how much fun I had. Like the real-time battle system, I think, is the real innovation here. And the way it works is each face button has a different move mapped to it, and they all operate on cooldown. So not only do you have to consider like the positioning of your Pokemon, but also the positioning of your trainer, because if you get in the way, or if you stand in the line of fire of your opponent's attack, like he said, you're going to get knocked out and you're going to lose the battle because you got hurt, not your Pokemon. But then because all these attacks operate on different cooldowns, I'm using attacks that I never used in the turn-based games. I never used Tail Whip or Growl, but like I'm using that in this because it's like, all right, my good attacks are on cooldown. I might as well use Growl and lower their offense or whatever. And that's, I think, a big innovation there. And the exploration is on a smaller scale, but it does seem like it is nearly as involved as the exploration in Legends Arceus. And those were kind of my biggest surprises and positive takeaways from the experience.
I kind of want to throw this out and kind of do a free for all now of like anything anyone's kind of had ideas or topics you guys want to talk about, because I just think it's such a new territory, right? Yes, Arceus happened, but this is completely new territory. And I'm a little nervous. I feel like if I was the developer, I'd be a little bit nervous about how people would react to it. I guess my first question is, I guess, what have you seen people talking about Legends, ZA?
I was surprised that they announced a sequel to Arceus, however long ago. I think the thing that everyone is kind of talking about and wanting is the next generation. When are we getting the next new main Pokemon game? So the fact that they took a chance on Arceus in the first place and then are also giving that kind of a bigger, better sequel was really surprising. We're seeing Pokemon, the new, this kind of Animal Crossing Pokopia, spinoff that they just announced, where you play as a Ditto, kind of terraforming a little island. It's just another really big surprise from Pokemon when you're seeing, a franchise that's been around for so long. They need to take some risks, and I think doing an open world Pokemon game, like you said, is kind of the biggest ask that we've had, since the game came out. You wanted to just run around a world and catch Pokemon, which Arceus did. But there were texture pop-ins, some glitches here and there. And from what I played of ZA, there's nothing like that at all. I'm curious how the scope of the city is gonna work out, and then also the exploration, where you're kind of limited to metropolitan, some skyscrapers, some alleys, cafes, streets. But there is a pretty good variety of Pokemon that you can see from all the different generations. I'd say it's a bit more maybe on the earlier side than like some of the new Pokemon. So there's, I think for longtime fans, there's a lot of like classic Pokemon that you're going to be seeing.
We love that.
I'm a big fan of the earlier stuff, and especially, I was surprised that they have, I believe the starters, we have Totodile, Chikorita, Tepig. I'm going to go Totodile for sure. That's kind of locked in for me. So yeah, I mean, as a fan, this is what we've always wanted, a big open world, real time battling game. So yeah, but I'm still waiting, for the next generation to be announced. I'm hoping maybe after this comes out, maybe next year we get some details. I think that's kind of the big thing. But yeah, I think people are really gonna like this a lot when it comes out soon.
I think we're going to get the next generation on February 27th of next year, because that's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon.
True.
So that would make the most sense. I think Pokemon is going to pull out all the stops for next year just to mark this 3 decades in existence, with a bang, because like you said, we're all waiting for the next generation. Scarlet and Violet is great now, but it wasn't great when it launched on Switch 1, which is another thing that I actually want to bring up a little bit with Pokemon Legends ZA. None of us have played the Switch 1 version, which if you played Scarlet and Violet on Switch 1, it was not in good shape whatsoever. It's a notoriously poorly running game. They fixed all of those problems when the Switch 2 version was released, but I worry about how this is going to run on the Switch 1, because it runs great on the Switch 2 from what we saw in our demo, but that is my one concern that I have for this game.
Fair point, yeah.
Just to echo a couple of things there, I think as well with Legends Arceus, or it had this almost like this cult following. I've noticed online, people absolutely loved it. The new mechanic that was introduced, everyone was saying, yeah, this should be the future of the Pokemon series. All these games should have it going forward. And yeah, I've seen like you guys have pointed out, a few kind of hesitations about the world itself, kind of being purely set in a city. But like you say, hopefully they'll fears will be put to bed when we're hands on with it as well. And in terms of this game releasing for the Switch 2 as well, I think it also comes at a good time for Nintendo, you could say, because of course Switch 2 launched, I think 4 or 5 months ago now. God, that's flown by.
Yeah.
But some people might say, have there been enough really good first party releases with that to sustain interest since that time? Of course it's been selling like hotcakes, right? Pre-orders sold out straight away. It's breaking records in its first few weeks, but has it been able to sustain that? Of course, people have been playing like Mario Kart, that's one of the bundles with it, and DK Bonanza has been really good as well. And there's been a few other key first party releases that have been a bit smaller in scope, such as Drag X Drive, and we've got Metro Prime, of course, coming at the start of December. So yeah, I think it comes at a good time as well in terms of the holiday season to have a new Pokemon game to be able to play, like I say, hopefully ahead of Gen 10 being unveiled early next year. Fingers crossed for that.
Yeah. It seems like there's a that's right. The timing is incredible. What do you think about all these new games kind of coming out at the same time too? There's so I mean, kind of to take it out of the Pokemon world a little bit here. There's Battlefield 6 coming out. There's GTA possibly in the work. I mean, can possibly work releasing or not releasing. Who knows? Um, and there's just there's I just talked to Fatality, who's the number one like esports superstar, uh the very first one, and he was talking about Arceus and like a few other new releases that I'm not too wary of. But like, what do we think? Is this too much at once, or is this a pretty regular thing for the end of the year kind of, okay, holiday gift guide type of stuff?
Yeah, this is pretty much par for the course at this time of year. All starting in September, I pretty much just tell all my friends and loved ones that I'm gonna have very limited free time because I'm gonna either be reviewing these games or having to play them for end of year consideration for like awards and everything. Well, thankfully we don't have GTA to worry about. That's coming out spring of next year. So that's the good news, because I have already said multiple times on social media there are too many games right now. And 2025 has been particularly unique because yes, there are those tentpole releases that everybody has circled on their calendar like Legend CA. But like, there are also so many games that have seemingly come out of nowhere or have like surprise launched this year. Like Blueprints is one of the games that is like one of the most universally critically acclaimed games, and nobody really had that on their radar until it came out, and everybody's like, wait a sec, this game is one of the best puzzle games of the last decade. And then nobody knew that like Hades 2 was coming into 1.0 until it happened, basically. And same thing for Hollow Knight Silksong. These are games that are, were highly anticipated, yes, but we didn't know when they were releasing. And then it just so happened that both of those sequels to two of the greatest indie games of all time happened to release the same month on a very, very short notice basis. And we're getting a lot of examples like that. I mean, also, very few people had Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on their list coming into the year. And that I would be surprised if that doesn't take home several Game of the Year awards. So it has been a very strange year in that regard, because in addition to all of these heavy hitter AAA like known quantities, we also have all these like surprise hits.
I think too for the Switch, it's coming at a good time. I'm still holding out. I don't have a Switch 2 yet. I'm still rocking the original Switch. But I mean, you really only had Mario Kart, and that was kind of the main thing that everyone's been playing. And then Donkey Kong Bonanza comes out. That was a very big, much better received game than I think people were expecting. I'm a big platformer fan. I'm really excited for that. But it seems like the reviews of that one have been 10 out of 10s across the board, which was pretty surprising. And it just seems like with a Nintendo console, you need a Pokemon game up there. You have your Mario Kart, your Mario, sports adjacent game. You have your platformer, and then you need Pokemon. It's kind of just one of the pillars of Nintendo. I know we got, Kirby Air Riders, that sequel that's been long awaited is also coming out, which is, I think, going to be a big one for them as well. More of a throwback game. And then, yeah, it's just like, I feel like every Nintendo console needs a Pokemon game. And then this being the Switch and Switch 2 kind of bridge, I think sets them up for, okay, the Switch 2, it's been going to, be out for close to a year, probably when Gen 10 is ready to come out. If not, it's going to be out for over a year at that point. So yeah, I think, like you said, I am a little curious how it's going to run on the original Switch. That's my maybe biggest, like, we'll see how that goes, because I'm hoping everything's going to be okay and it doesn't explode in my hands when I try to play it. But yeah, I think the Nintendo Switch 2 has been selling incredibly well. We're waiting for, a mainline Mario game. I think that's maybe the other biggest, missing piece of the puzzle, for like a big launch of a new console. But yeah, you got the Mario Kart, you got a platformer, you need a Pokemon game. And I think this is coming at the right time, especially with the holidays coming up. Parents and, people are thinking, okay, maybe let's get that Switch 2. You got kind of three big games that can really last you a while, if you're going to be playing them. Pokemon especially. I mean, this is a game you can sink dozens of hours into. I mean, if you're going to catch them all, it's going to take a while. Whereas Mario Kart, it's the, have your friends over, play. Donkey Kong Bonanza isn't going to be as much of a time commitment. So I think it's coming at a good time for Nintendo. Will we see this in the Game of the Year conversation? I don't really think so, just because Pokemon games are usually, a Nintendo thing. Maybe they skew a little bit younger, and the Game of the Year contenders are, these big surprise hits. I think Silk Song, a lot of other ones, Hades 2, those are going to probably dominate the conversation. But for Nintendo, I think this is going to be a really good, swing for them, come holiday season.
Yeah, just to echo what you guys have said again, really. Yeah, particularly with the point in terms of having a new release and having something brand new to get your teeth stuck into on the Switch 2. We've seen, loads of Switch 2 editions of games come out. Jamboree TV for Mario Party Jamboree, Switch 2 edition of the 2 Zelda games, and as amazing as Breath of the Wild is, and absolutely love that game. That initially also released on the Wii U, which is 2 generations ago now. So it never gets old playing it through, right? There's always loads to do, don't get me wrong. Unbelievable game. You could play it again and again and never be bored. But it is nice to have something new to stick your teeth into. There've been a lot of ports as well that have had mixed success as well, in terms of I'm thinking Cyberpunk, that was brilliant when it launched, Star Wars Outlaws as well. So yeah, it's a good time for Nintendo to be releasing something designed for Switch 2. Hopefully, like we say, it runs okay on the Switch without, like you say, bursting into flames as well. But yeah, it's a good time for Nintendo, and they've got a decent first-party catalog running through the holidays.
With all you guys' research into Pokemon ZA, have you guys found any insider kind of stories that are noteworthy, whether it's from developers or the making of, or anything behind the scenes like that? I think people always want to know that.
Nintendo's been pretty guarded. And I know that this is being developed by Game Freak, but there hasn't really been much in terms of developer access this time around. Usually by now we have interviews with developers and stuff like that, but they have been oddly guarded. And I wonder if that's in response to the fact that, Scarlet and Violet launched in the state that it did. And I think that maybe they're being a little bit more cautious with this launch, making sure that they can actually deliver the performance that they're hoping to deliver. And in that sense, maybe once they get their legs under them and getting the technology to operate at the level they need to in order for it to be an acceptable release, maybe once they lift that, once they hit that bar, they'll be able to kind of come out and talk a little bit more. But yeah, I think they're maybe being a little bit more cautious with the access that people get this time around.
And there were those, the big thing that's coming back in this game are the Mega Evolutions. And I don't want to speak about leaks or anything, but there was a pretty big leak that kind of seemingly revealed a lot of what the new Megas coming out, with this new game are going to be. And so far, Mega Victory Bell was the most recent one I believe they announced, Mega Dragonite, which I love Megas. I loved when they were introduced. I think they might be my favorite, new gaming battling mechanic compared to the, Gigantamax and, the crystallizing. I'm forgetting the name, unfortunately. Terastallizing, yeah. The Megas, I love the look, and I love, these kind of OG classic Pokemon just getting a new look. So yeah, I do wonder if, it seems like every Pokemon game has some kind of leak that's unforeseen and unfortunate, ultimately. So maybe they're trying to keep a bit of a handle on things, since it seemed like a lot of the Megas leaked. And then, yeah, I do wonder, after the Scarlet Violet, I definitely waited to play that one until some of the patches came out. But yeah, it does make me wonder, when the reviews come out, there's going to be a Switch 2 version and a Switch version. And, if the Switch version is similar to the Scarlet Violet launch, it's probably going to disappoint a lot of fans. What have they learned in the years since Scarlet Violet came out? Is it time to make the jump to Switch 2? Let's put the Switch away. You got to jump to the next generation, which is awesome. I think just the price point also coming out after the Switch 2 console reveal really disappointed some people with just the price that it's at. A lot of that's out of the developer's control, obviously. The console price point. But yeah, I think, this offers the chance for Nintendo and Game Freak to hopefully win back a lot of fans. If the game is as fun as the demos have been, I don't think they're going to have any problems with that at all. I really like it. I cannot wait to play it. But yeah, I'm curious if there's going to be any limitations on the Switch 1 version. Also, I guess I wanted to see what you guys thought. It seems like we're also kind of in line for a new remake. You know, the most recent one was Gen 4, Diamond and Pearl. That one also was not my favorite. The animation style was a little surprising. It seems like also maybe next year, you know, with the cadence of their releases, we get a new gen, we get a remake. I mean, if Black and White are going to be next, it just seems like that is such a recent game to remake. I don't know how you start. When do you stop remaking games? Or, you know, are we going to get a red and blue remake? You know, a Gen 1, a Gen 2 in this open world style. I mean, I would love that. That would be, I think, what I am most excited for the possibility of next, especially, you know, with this big, you know, major anniversary coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what gets announced. Man, if they do another remake of Gen 1, I'm so here for that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they've done Leaf Green, Fire Reds, and then it was Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, wasn't it? Eevee and Pikachu, which was good. It was kind of like a bit of an entry point into it, a bit of a Pokemon Go crossover. But yeah, if they do a full remake with kind of like, you know, 4K, like you say, running open world, wow, sign me up for that. And yeah, just pick up on a couple of things you guys said there. Not going into leaks too much, but yeah, when Mega Dragonite officially came out, the reaction to that was insane. People loved it. Everyone loves Dragonite, right? And the Mega version of him went down a storm. So yeah, that seems to be like a surefire way. Do a Mega Dragonite, please, everyone. And then, yeah, in terms of, you know, going forward with Legends CA, I think there's because of how Scarlet and Violet did on the original Switch, you've kind of got a couple of things going on. You've got the age-old problem when a new console comes out. You want to push the capabilities of that to the limit, but you've also got to make it compatible for older generation hardware. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Game Freak does with that. And like you guys said, 2 different versions, you know, it's going to be really interesting if it does hold up, because even with all the patches, performance fixes, everything that was issued for Scarlet Violet, you still do see the odd new thing popping up on social media, kind of like being like, that's a bit weird, bit of jank there, you know, things not being as they should. So it'd be interesting to to see how they go on that front.
Do you guys have any questions for each other?
What's everybody's favorite Pokemon?
Oh, what a question. What a question.
It's a tough one.
I literally had to choose something the other day, so I'm just going to go with that as Jigglypuff, because her sassiness is...
That's a great one.
Nice.
Especially for the anime too. I mean, there's so much personality behind Jigglypuff.
Mhm.
It's always one of the starters, I feel like, for me. I'm a Gen 3 kid, and I really love Mudkip. I feel like that's a great one. But then also Gen 4, I put a lot of time into. So I mean, Chimchar, Torchic. It's tough, but yeah, I feel like Mudkip is I always go back to him as my starter for Gen 3.
Love that. In terms of favorite Pokemon, I'd probably say Snorlax, just because of how very kind of like varied you can make him, how diverse. I always remember he was like one of my go-tos in like the very first Pokemon Quest, the first Pokemon that I played, and made him absolute beast. And yeah, he'll always have a strong place in my heart. And he looks great, right?
Yeah, Snorlax and Jigglypuff.
Perfect.
Love it. Okay.
I'm a Dragonite guy myself.
Nice. So you must be stoked for the Mega.
I am excited that he's apparently going to be like front and center in this game. Like, I'm stoked for that.
I'll be honest, I don't know if I loved the Mega Dragonite design. I wanted a bit more. He just kind of has like the things sprouting from his
wings
head
in his ears
a little bit, and I don't know. Dragonite is already such an iconic design. Going from like Dratini, Dragonair, Dragonite. It's such a visual change. It's already pretty interesting. That's how he ends up and is one of the pseudo legendaries. I thought the look of Mega Victory Bell was pretty funny. And it's just, it gives you the opportunity to use these Pokemon that you would not really use in a team comp. I'm not like I'll be honest, not a big grass type fan, which maybe is my own, I need to deal with that myself, but it's not like I would have a Bellsprout on my team and then level up to a Victory Bell. But the look of this Mega Victory Bell, this giant, Venus flytrap looking thing was pretty cool. So I am really excited to see the new Megas. Mega Hawlucha, another Pokemon I already loved I'm trying to remember what gen that was, but it was the fighting flying type was such a cool type variation. And I love the design. I love the reveal trailers that they've been doing for ZA. The Hawlucha one, the Victory Bell one. I thought they were getting pretty creative with how they were revealing this information rather than doing a direct or doing kind of your standard run-of-the-mill little, info dump. I thought they got pretty creative and just visually interesting, and that's what Pokemon's all about. All these characters have so much personality. Put that at the forefront. So I think the promo cycle has been pretty good with how they're doing these.
And they did a really cool reveal trailer, a really creepy reveal trailer for Mega Malamar. If you
Yes,
saw
yeah,
that
that's the other
one.
one.
And by the way, I think that might be my favorite new Mega Evolution design out of all of them, because it's just like really, really creepy looking, playing into, I don't know if you saw the anime episode starring Malamar, but like it's like one of the scariest episodes of the anime, and they really played into that with the reveal trailer as well.
That's exciting. I love all this chatter, and I'm so excited that you guys. I mean, obviously, we're all excited about this release, but to see you guys' enthusiasm about it is definitely. I loved having y'all together. We talked a little bit about the pricing. What I have here is the original Nintendo Switch price is $59.99 in the US. Uh, Nintendo Switch 2 is $69.99. There is an upgrade pack to go from the original to the Switch 2. That's $9.99. Anything you guys are hearing differently? I don't know what it's like in the UK.
Good question. I think it's going right off the top of my head. I think it's £55 for the Switch one, 65 for Switch 2.
Just about. Okay.
So, yeah, pretty well.
That translates. Okay. Anything we're missing in terms of the chatter around Pokemon or ZA? Sorry.
I think that the chatter that I've heard is, well, one, I think that people are saying like this is the closest it's ever going to feel, at least to this point, of like playing through an episode of the anime, because like you have the real-time battle system, you're going around in this one singular city that happens to be one of the greatest cities in Pokemon history, Lumio City from Pokemon X and Y, and it feels more like the game that I think that all of us as kids envisioned in our heads of like, oh, it'd be so cool to have like actual battles instead of like, you know, the traditional turn-based RPG battles that we've had for the vast majority of the series. And I think that people are really excited for kind of this new approach to Pokemon. And I think that if like past his prologue, if these things are successful in this spin-off, then in the mainline entries going forward, we might see some of these mechanics implemented, or at least, you know, fused with the core series mechanics.
That would be pretty amazing to me. I mean, I had a real blast with the real-time fighting, and just being able to move your trainer around the area and, you know, take cover behind something, call out an attack. I really liked, I believe it was, I had a Gyarados on my team and he used Whirlpool, and the Whirlpool stuck on the ground as kind of an AoE attack where it was fighting some like Houndour and Houndoom, a giant Houndoom. And so the Whirlpool was kind of this area of effect water attack, and then I could use, you know, Waterfall on cooldown. So it was, there's a lot of strategy. It's a much deeper combat system than we've ever seen before. And yeah, like you said, I'm all about offense, you know, when I'm choosing my 4 attacks. So I am not using Tail Whip. I'm not using, you know, Sword Dance. I probably should be, but I'm all about doing damage. And the other thing I really liked about this one that surprised me was, rather than having 4 moves for each Pokemon, you were selecting from several additional move types, you know, and moves from like a pool. So let's say, you know, I think I had a Weepinbell on my team, let's say. And so I have, you know, Poison Powder, Sleep Powder, Vine Whip. And so if you want to stack those status inducing moves, you can swap them out. If you want more, you know, let's lower the defense of you know, your opponent, swap into a different type, and then, you know, attack. The move variation that you have at your disposal, you can just pause the game, go to the main menu, and then switch your attacks on the fly, which you've never been able to do before. You've been limited to 4 moves, and then make some really hard decisions with, you know, what moves you're going to keep. So this, you can really tailor your battle, you know, based on who you're going up against, which I thought was really cool. And yeah, it was surprising. I was not expecting that at all, but I think it's a really subtle change that really makes the battling system completely different, which, yeah, most excited I am about, you know, any kind of Pokemon game. This is the, you know, biggest change I think they've probably ever had, other than going open world. And like you said, if they want to go to Gen 10 and, you know, incorporate these open world mechanics that they did in Scarlet and Violet with the battling system of ZA, that'd be pretty awesome. I mean, just brainstorming. If they go back and do, you know, a Gen 1, Gen 2 remake, let's combine them. You know, in Gold and Silver, we got to go to, you know, Kanto and do all that over again. You know, the big fight with Red at the very end. Let's just have a giant open world where you go between Kanto and Johto. I'm going to throw that out there as a free idea to Game Freak and Nintendo, because that's what I really want to see.
If they're listening, please make that happen. Please make that happen. Yeah, just pick up on something you guys said as well with with Legends Arceus, going down so well, and some changes being made to ZA, and rumors of Gen 10 potentially being revealed next year. It's the perfect time for them to kind of like experiment and see what does well, to refine something that they took a swing at with Arceus and be like, right, this worked, people love it, we're going to put that in Gen 10, or maybe even go, oh, that mechanic didn't quite land as well, we'll scale that back and revert, see how things going on that front, because like you said, big chatters around Gen 10. Everyone wants to know when that's coming out, but this would be a great title to tie us over in the meantime, right? And like you say, with it being you guys are making me really want to play this even more now. I'm jealous you guys have had such time being hands-on with it, especially like you say, being an offensive player. That's me too. Like you say, tail whip now, the first move to go. But yeah, having them being able to do different moves on the fly. I wonder even if that's something that could eventually tie over into Gen 10 or even real time. So yeah, excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and playing off something Jordan said, like it is like a lot of quality of life improvements that we've seen over the last couple of entries are all implemented in Legends ZA as well. So it's like the ability to swap out Pokemon no matter where you are, just via the box. Like you can access your box of Pokemon from anywhere. You can evolve Pokemon via the menu. Like when I got my first demo, I had a Chikorita, and then I looked at my Pokemon party, and it said ready to evolve, and I just clicked it, and it evolved to Bayleaf. So I don't have to like wait for it to level up again if I don't want to level him up right then and there. It'll happen the next time I open that menu and say, I think it is time to evolve Chikorita into Bayleaf. And that's something that's really exciting, that there's all these quality of life improvements that have been from past Pokemon games brought forward into this, to make it feel, even though it's a spin-off, it still feels almost like a culmination of all the Pokemon, excuse the wordplay here, evolutions that we've gotten over the course of the series.
So when are y'all gonna go out and get the thing and play?
As soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna run out. I really am excited for it. There's so many games coming out this fall, but yeah, that one's pretty high on the list. I just playing new Pokemon makes me feel like a kid again. These games are such nostalgic experiences, and yeah, this one is a real evolution, a good culmination. That was a great way to put it, of all these things that we've loved, for so many years.
What are you guys hearing about the games industry? What is the state of the industry right now?
Oh man, that's a very that's a tough question to answer.
Yeah.
It's been a turbulent time these past few years. We've seen a lot of acquisitions, we've seen a lot of layoffs, a lot of studio closures. It all anchored by different, like I think it all began with kind of the COVID boom. Like gaming had an absolute explosion in popularity during the lockdowns, because people were like, all right, well, I'm going to stay inside, I'm going to not really go out and do as much, I'm going to get a Nintendo Switch, or I'm going to get a PlayStation 5. And because of that, we had a lot of unsustainable growth within the industry, and a lot of studios hired up, or a lot of publishers like acquired studios in hopes that this continual growth would, continue in perpetuity. But unfortunately, that bill did come due once, kind of the world returned to a more normal state. And because of that, we've seen a lot of like misalignment in expectations, which has resulted in people or companies missing their sales marks or missing their profit margins. And it has resulted in a lot of studio closures, a lot of layoffs. And we've seen several acquisitions that have also resulted in closures and layoffs. Xbox acquiring Activision. We just had news about Electronic Arts being privatized, basically, like taken off of public listing, acquired by a collection of investment firms. And I think that the landscape of the games industry is shifting pretty dramatically these past several years. And it has felt in certain times that it's starting to stabilize, and then we get another sweeping round of layoffs. And another thing that we're seeing this generation that we haven't really seen with past generations is because of economic conditions, particularly within the US, we're seeing a lot of prices going up over the course of a generation instead of prices going down. Like we've seen Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo all raise the price of their hardware and certain peripherals, and also subscription services like Xbox Game Pass just got a big price hike for its Ultimate plan. So we're seeing kind of this really strange, unsustainable like growth result in like just kind of a really turbulent time within the games industry, and then add to that kind of the economic conditions that we're seeing that feel unprecedented in several different ways. It's really resulting in a strange time to observe the industry, an even stranger time to cover it, and a very expensive time to be a gamer.
Yeah, it's actually something Jake had brought up previously when we were chatting outside of this recording. Is that the elitist culture is a little bit like the games industry is feeling a little bit more elitist. Is that correct? What's your take on it, Jake?
Yeah, I think it's just becoming that point where if you want the best experience in gaming, you have to have so much money now. Even in the been playing games all my life. I remember going down to shops on a Saturday and picking up brand new PS2 games for £30. Now they're 70 and all that kind of thing. But even in the past year where I've been covering gaming full time, like a perfect example with Game Pass, even 16, 17, 18 months ago, it was $16.99 in the US, now it's $29.99 for Ultimate. And to me, it just feels like there's going to, I mean, again, with the Game Pass, sorry, just to loop back on that, the reaction to it going up to $30 a month was just unprecedented. So many people were trying to unsubscribe that the page crashed all over the world. People were just so quick to try and get rid of, be like, right, I'm not going to pay this anymore. It's not worth that that monthly subscription because it's $360 a year. That's a heck of a lot of money, and is more than what a Series S was when it came out. Now with that, I just feel there's going to come a point where you're going to lose so much of your player base, your consumers, by pricing it so high that even that's not going to be sustainable, and there's going to be a tipping point. I don't know when that's going to be or how that looks like, because it just feels we get to that point, prices are just going to go up and up and up, and it is going to price a lot of people out again, to the point where companies go, actually, we're making on no money this at all. We've got a decision here. Do we try and make it more accessible to more people again, or do we go to that elite level? And yeah, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, the ROG Xbox LAX, $1,000.
Exactly.
I mean, I know that's kind of like what you could pay, compared to some competitors at that price point, but yeah, that's a heck of a lot of money. So yeah, I just feel there's going to be a point where there's going to be a tipping point, and I don't know when that will be, but it feels like we could be nearing that month by month with, like you say, the more layoffs that happen because people are trying to do things a lot more cheaper now. And yeah, the quality naturally will, and and that's another thing, like the variation of choice will diminish as a result, because you're catering to a much lesser audience. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it looks over the next few months and years.
Mm-hmm.
I would say from my perspective, I would say my main beat is the film and TV industry and gaming on the side, obviously. But I mean, we're seeing gaming, the popularity of gaming worldwide really spread its way into, on screens. Earlier this year, Minecraft, that was, one of the biggest movies of the year, especially for younger audiences.
That was, can I say, Minecraft was, I went in not expecting anything and was blown away. I will say, Jack Black carried the movie, but still, it was actually incredible.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, I feel like people love Jack Black. The whole chicken jockey phenomenon, took over theaters, and that was a movie that really spoke to gamers. And this was a property that we hadn't seen on the big screen ever, and it was delivered really authentically, and with kind of just it was definitely geared toward kids, but there were references and homages to the hardcore gamers that have played Minecraft for generations at this point. That translated, to box office success for Warner Brothers, especially this year, which has been having a great year after some misfires earlier. We're seeing the Fallout TV show. Season 2 is coming up on Amazon Prime Video. That was a really people really love that show. The first season that came out a little bit ago. People are pretty excited for that new season. I'm trying to think what else. The Super Mario Brothers movie, that was a massive hit, over $1 billion at the box office, and is now, they announced recently the Super Mario Galaxy movie, which seems like the natural next step. So, the pop culture, effect of gaming and IP is really, I think, the powerhouse that movie studios are looking for. They're not making small indie dramas, character driven dramas anymore, when they know that people love Minecraft. They want to see a big, crazy, ridiculous movie about that. people love Mario. They want to see a movie about that. We have Mortal Kombat 2 coming out next year, also from Warner Brothers. There's a God of War series in the works, Mass Effect. All these kind of beloved franchises are trying to get a new, revitalize themselves on TV or in theaters. So yeah, and that is kind of, it used to be comic book movies were the thing. Everyone wanted to do Marvel, DC, Spider-Man, all these different universes of interconnected, comic book characters. Whereas now games are kind of the major currency, at least, for these movie and TV studios. So at least that's the perspective we're seeing. I'm really excited, to either, play a lot of these games and then just watch the stories unfold on screen. So in one way or another, I would say, these characters are going to live on, whether you're playing them or you're watching them on a screen of some sort.
You guys all bring such great perspectives. I do want to get one more question in before we close off. Kind of also a big question, I suppose. What do you feel are some topics or issues that are not quite talked about in the media space as much, and you feel like there needs to be more coverage on? Of course, we have the games coverage, play coverage, and all of that. Lots of those out there. But what else are we craving for? What are people craving? What do we think we need in the discourse?
I think from my perspective, it's not necessarily a topic as much as I wish that we had more bandwidth to cover like smaller games, right? There's so many amazing indie games that hit every single day that it would just be impossible to cover all of them. Like it's something like thousands of games hit Steam every single week. And it's like, yeah, there's no way anybody could realistically even scroll through all of those games on a Steam page, let alone like play all of them and evaluate them and cover news regarding them. So I wish that there was just like enough time in the day, in the week, in the year to cover all of these incredible games and really keep our finger on the pulse of all of these games that are coming out from these passionate creators that deserve attention. It's just like I said earlier in the show, there are too many games, and it unfortunately, the audience wants, the grander audience wants to read about those big, massive AAA releases more generally than they do like the smaller indie games. And now we always try to balance that by saying like, all right, well, we're going to cover the big, massive AAA titles like Ghost of Yote. Of course, we're going to review that and cover all the news leading up to that. But we're also going to keep our eyes open for like what games are really looking cool on Steam. But it's just an impossible task, and I wish that was not the case. I wish we could cover all of these games that are coming from people who are extraordinarily talented, extraordinarily passionate, and it's just a fool's errand trying to keep up with all the games.
And then in comes AI as well, so that's also interesting to more indie games, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was going to say AI, I think, has been the overall thing that's really crept its way into our coverage. No one wants to see AI slop that has taken a human creator's job. So I think that's something that I think is getting covered pretty well, and it's it's a prevailing issue that's going to just infect every corner of the industry, whether it's film and TV, gaming, news, journalism, everything. It's just becoming a bigger part of our society. And I think also what you said is, these big AAA titles that are coming out are going to get the coverage. And to make noise, you have to eventize something. I would say, the indie games like Silksong, that was just kind of the big question of where is it? It's taking so long. And then it finally comes out, on a moment's notice, and then it becomes this, major splash. And that's not a $70 game. I believe it's, $30. It's, less than half of what a major, game release is costing now. Which I was so heartened to hear that. I loved that, rather than crunch and, force their studio to work all these long hours and weekends upon weekends, they took their time and they delivered a game that everyone has been loving, that I cannot wait to dive into more. So I think the culture of crunch, has been an issue in the games industry, and it seems like at least that's, a great example of how to fight against that. And yeah, I mean, we're seeing, games get announced years in advance. We saw the first Wolverine teaser years and years ago. The next Elder Scrolls teaser years ago. Same with Grand Theft Auto 6. And then, we're seeing studios take their time and, not derail their employees' lives to, deliver upon these massive games that are going to deliver a lot of money. But yeah, I definitely, if I had, more hours in the day and more people to cover gaming on our team, we would be doing a lot more of that kind of stuff. And then AI, I think, is, a giant issue that we're going to be covering for, years to come now.
Yeah, to echo those couple of points as well, I think as well for us, because on Indie 100 specifically, we do quite a lot of like viral stuff and like what a lot of people are talking about online. Sorry to bring it up again, but kind of like the prices and stuff and kind of like what it means to consumers and just kind of like doing a deep dive into, the people that are being affected by this kind of thing as well. For us, the outcry was huge and we did like loads of reaction pieces of that. So yeah, I just think it's kind of like important. Again, something that we all try and do, but bandwidth, availability, that kind of thing, completely get it. But it's kind of like these changes are happening, these prices are rising, but then it's like, how does that affect me? What other options are there for me? Does this mean I will have to cancel my Xbox? Am I going to have to give something else up to be able to play the games that I love? Will I need to sell my console? Is it worth me having it anymore? And just kind of like general chatter and summing at what people, the general reaction and mood of what things are happening online are really important. Same with it, say like the EA acquisition. What does that mean to me as the quality of the products that I invest a lot of time and money in? Are they going to diminish? Are they going to get better? So yeah, just kind of like I always do think like if I'm a consumer reading it, what would I want to know? So yeah, that's always something that we try and get across.
Awesome. Well, I thank you guys so much for all your beautiful insights on the games industry and of course ZA. Thank you guys so much for your time.
Presented by Xsola, all the things powering the business of games. To learn more, go to xsola.pro/gamer-galaxy.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.